What's going on, everyone? How's everyone doing this evening? My name is Coach Ricks, and you've entered Coach's Talk, where we discuss all things sports related, college football related, OU related, and all things in between. Before we get started, could you please hit that like button, push that red subscribe button, ring that bell so you'll catch all the content that I got going forward. Today, we're going to jump into will Oklahoma win more than 7 games? The national, I guess the national outlet, man, is really into this. Texas is going to be the next big thing in the SEC. And I'm trying to figure out where they're getting their stats from, where they're getting all this data from, because everything that we're getting so far is off last year. When you get things like that, you it's kind of subjective because you really don't know what the team will bring or what the team is going to do. So everything that we say and do right now to pick what we think a team's going to be or how they're going to be, it's all subjective. So I want to try to dig into some stats and try to figure out why I do believe Oklahoma will have more than 7 wins. But in doing that, we have to look back at what are they grading this on? Is it from what last year, how it ended last year for Oklahoma? Or are they trying to make it Texas was here and we think Oklahoma is here? So I understand that the SEC is a dominant task for either Texas or Oklahoma. Based on tradition, overall leadership, that win total is too low. I don't think everyone understands that Oklahoma has ran the Big 12. Oklahoma has dominated the Big 12. Yes, a few times, Baylor, a few times Oklahoma State, a few times K-State, and here recently Texas. So if you look at the overall aspect of it, I can see where people would perceive Oklahoma to be a little bit on the bad side. The last game we saw was Arizona. They had 6 turnovers against Arizona. So the national aspect of how they see Oklahoma is, wow, they struggled against Arizona. Arizona was a good team. We just overlooked them. We didn't know anything about the Pac-12. So all I can say is going forward, stats are stats. What we are basing things on is what happened last year. So we know from night and day that things change from one year to another year. So I just want to get an overall picture of what the national media and all the other media outlets are looking at when they say Oklahoma will go 6-5. Sometimes some people say 6-5, some say 7-5. So we're going to break down some stats and try to figure out if we can get that win total to what I think it's going to be. My win total for Oklahoma is the ceiling is 10-2. The floor is 9-3 at one game. So we're going to try to pinpoint what that one game is. So if we're looking over stats, they're basing Texas as a number 4 team in the nation. So if they're basing Texas a number 4 team in the nation and they lost 11 starters from last year, Oklahoma has only lost one on defense and lost two, three on offense, two offensive linemen and the quarterback. So you have to look at what they're basing this off of. So if we're going by Texas, let's use Texas as an example. They saw Texas go into the Big 12. They saw Texas go into the college football playoff for the first time, and then they lost to Washington. Washington should have blew them out that game, but Texas did lose that game. But the national outlet is like, "Ooh, Texas is back." The national outlet, they need Texas to be back. They need for Texas to be relevant because when Texas is relevant and OU is relevant, it's great for marketing. It's great for business. It's great for the dollars that Texas can offer to anyone or their fans and things like that. So if you look at last year's record for Texas, they went 12-2. All right. If you look at the two losses, Washington and Oklahoma, those two offenses had what in common? They have dual threat quarterbacks and they have talent all over the field and they just spread the ball out. And I think Oklahoma has a better receiving core than than Washington did last year because you have your returning starters on offense. You're only losing one receiver last year from Oklahoma, and that is Drake Stoops. So you're returning Farouk, Nick Anderson, you're returning Audra Anthony, and you bringing in Dion Branch. So you're bringing in guys. Now we did lose Jaden Gibson and everything. That was a blow. But I think Oklahoma's receiving core is so deep that we can go in there and fill in that spot and not lose a beat. So we just have to look at that for what it is. So Texas went 12-2, two losses, Oklahoma and Washington. But then there could have been two more losses. And I think the Big 12 dropped the ball last year trying to deprive Oklahoma and Texas from getting to the Big 12. So due to a misalignment or a misjudge or a bad spot by a line judge in the Houston, Texas game, Texas should have lost that game because they were short and the line judge gave them an extra yard for a first down, which ended up costing Houston the touchdown to lose the game. That should have been a loss. Then you go and you play against K State. You go against K State, you had to go into overtime against K State to win 33-30. Why K State did not kick the field goal on their 12-yard line, I have no idea. But that was an escape for Texas. So that would have been two more losses for you. And let's not forget about the TCU game. You won that game 29-26. You were up by 20. I think you was up by 23 in the fourth quarter. They scored 20 unanswered points, and you held on to win that game. So that could have been five losses that Texas would have had. Then we would not be having this conversation. But a win is a win, and you do whatever it takes to win that game. So I was looking over some stats and everything, and Texas has only had two 10 wins and 10-win seasons. All right. Two 10-win seasons. They had one in 2009. Mac Brown was still there. They went 12, I think it was 13-1. They lost in the national championship game to Alabama. All right. Alabama goes on to knock Colt McCoy out of the ball game. They end up losing the ball game. Part of the game. Let's dig into deeper to that 13-1 season. That was the year that Sam Bradford got knocked out of the game in the first game against BYU. All right. You know what the score was with Texas and Oklahoma that year? That they went 13-1? 16-13. A backup quarterback came in, freshman quarterback came in, and you won 16-13. Let's fast forward 2018. Oh, and by the way, that was OU's only 8-5 season in the last 13 to 14 years. They went 8-5 with a starting freshman Landry Jones to go on to win I think it was the Sun Bowl against I think it was Stanford when Harbaugh was there. Fast forward 2018, Texas goes 10-4. That's the year they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and they were saying that Texas is back. Well, Oklahoma won the Big 12 that year, 39-27. What I'm trying to say is, and look at this, is that they need for Texas to be relevant. They need for Texas to be relevant in order for the landscape to think Oklahoma is not good. Let me tell you, Oklahoma is good. Oklahoma has an elite defense that is giving Jackson Arnold all type of problems in fall camp. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Jackson Arnold is going up against the best defense he'll face all season, besides probably Alabama. And you don't know what Ole Miss may bring. You don't know. I mean, I think Lane Kiffin did a good job going to the portal and grabbing all the cookies out of the cupboard to make sure that his team is relevant. So you don't know. Those are the two games that I have circled on Oklahoma schedule that cause me a concern is when you go to Oxford to play Ole Miss and when Alabama comes to Norman. I think that it depends on how the offensive line holds up. I think the transfer in from SMU, I can't think of his name right now. I think he is holding up well right now in the trenches. I think the offensive line is not going to be the problem this year. I think that just durability, I think uh, depth on the defensive side and offensive side. We're about to be taught what physicality is. But Oklahoma has always been the more physical team in the Big 12 that can transition over into the SEC. So when we break these numbers down, I'm looking at it as Temple won't be a concern for Oklahoma, but I believe Oklahoma will come into that game trying to make a statement. I believe Oklahoma wants to set this tone that this is what you're going to get every single day when you battle us. I think when they brought in Brent Venables, they brought in coaching staff that knows that defense is going to win championships. Everyone thought that when Lincoln left, that Oklahoma was going to fall off, that they were going to have to struggle to get quarterbacks and receivers and things like that. I think Oklahoma has had a better recruiting class the last 3 years that Brent Venables has been here than Lincoln Riley has at USC, who is supposed to be the quarterback whisperer or the offensive guru. So looking at Temple, I believe that's a win. If you look at Houston, I think Houston might be a challenge. I think Willie Fritz from Tulane is the new coach there now. I believe when Tulane came to Norman a few years ago when Lincoln was there, I think Lincoln and everyone overlooked them. Sometimes you start looking at the letters on the name on the front and stop and don't worry about playing the game. You still have to play that game. Get in the trenches, get dirty, get physical, and win that game. I think Brenton Venables is bringing the physicality to Oklahoma. I think a lot of people are so still used to Lincoln going to the four CFPs that they can't see past what Brent is doing. Brent is building for the long run, and Lincoln did it for the meanwhile. So when you look at Houston, I think Houston brings a little bit of concern, but I don't think they have the depth and the big boys up front to cause Oklahoma any kind of concern. So I believe Oklahoma starts out 2-0. Then you go to Tulane, where Willie Fritz was at a few years ago. Like I said, he's at Houston. I don't think that Tulane is going to be a threat this year coming to Norman. I think that they are in a rebuilding stage to where they have people that they got out of the portal at your group of fives and things like that. I don't think that Oklahoma will be concerned, but I don't think Oklahoma is going to overlook Tulane. I think Brent Venables sets a tone that the standard is the standard. This is how we're going to be every single day. We're not going to play up or lesser than our opponent. We're going to play top physical discipline football. So I think Oklahoma starts out 3-0. Then we get into what everybody's been looking for, the first SEC game that will be held in Norman. I think that's going to be a rowdy crowd. I think the fans are going to come out. You don't get Iowa State no more. You don't get Baylor no more. You don't get uh, Texas Tech no more. You don't get the little brother Oklahoma State. You're getting Auburn, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, LSU, and Tennessee and Auburn. So you're getting the big boys that everyone thought Oklahoma was scared to play. So Tennessee comes in with a freshman quarterback, Nico. I think Nico did well last year in the bowl game, but that is subjective as well because they were playing Iowa. Iowa averaged a total of 10 points last year in the conference. So when you're playing a high powered offense like Tennessee, who has Josh Heupel as their OC and their head coach, that is subjective because then you have to look at who you're playing against. Comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. You got a bunch of thoroughbreds that's on Tennessee, and you got a bunch of donkeys and mules that's going to be on, Iowa. There is no comparison. But when Tennessee comes to town, you got thoroughbreds versus thoroughbreds. So I think Oklahoma will have an advantage by playing at home. I don't think Nico is going to be prepared to what Brent Venables is going to throw at him. I think the first three games, Oklahoma is going to play a little basic defense. I don't think they're going to show anything. I think Zach Alley is going to come in, and that will be his. Let's call it the honeymoon stage. He's going to come in and set a precedent, and this is what it's going to be going forward. So I think Tennessee comes in. It might be a physical game up front, but I think throughout that game, Oklahoma will pretty much wind them down, wear them down in the trenches. I think with the 9 guys coming back on defense and the people that are returning, I think that would be a daunting task for Tennessee to come in there and pull out a victory in Norman against that type of defense and that hostile environment. So I got Oklahoma 4-0. Then Jordan Hare, when you play Auburn, I was kind of nervous about that because last year, the last second throw against Alabama, you know, that pass from Milrow for Alabama in the corner to beat Auburn. That last second throw gave Alabama the CFP to go play Michigan. I think if they lost that game, I think that Alabama would not have went to the CFP. That would have went to Florida State. So then you wouldn't have that controversy. I think that when New Mexico State came into Jordan Hare, and they say that they overlooked New Mexico State looking for Alabama. Overlooking somebody is getting beat 16-13, a last second field goal. When you get beat 31-10, you didn't overlook somebody. You wasn't prepared for someone. So I don't think Oklahoma is going to be that'll be the first road game for Oklahoma. I don't think they're going to be nervous. I think they're going to be excited to play the first road game. This is what everybody's been talking about since Oklahoma announced that it's going into the SEC in 2020. I think that when they go to Auburn, Jordan Hare, I think Oklahoma will make a statement and say, "This is who we are. This is what you're going to get." And I think Oklahoma wins that game. I think it's a close game because I believe Jordan Hare is going to be riled. It's going to be a ruckus. It's going to be outrageous. I think the fans are going to be, you know, going hostile. But I think Oklahoma will pull that game off. So then you got Oklahoma being 5-0. All right. So there right there, you're already 2 wins away from what the media thinks that you're going to be. If you get to Texas and you're 5-0, what is the national outlet going to think when Oklahoma comes in and they are 5-0 against Auburn, Tennessee, Tulane, Houston, and Temple? I think that everyone is going to start thinking, hey, this is not the Oklahoma that we thought was going to come into the SEC. They're not coming in here thinking that they're going to come and win 12 games in a row. OU fans they're not crazy. They're not over exaggerating. They know this is going to be a daunting task to come into the SEC and try to make their statement. Oklahoma is a team, tradition wise and history wise, has never shied away from competition. They've played the SEC before. They played the Big Ten before, and they played the Pac-12 before, and the ACC. So I think that everything is going by last year and what we saw from Jackson Arnold in the Arizona game. That's why everybody is panicking and thinking that Oklahoma got thrown to the wolves by getting this daunting schedule that the SEC gave them. It is what it is. You still have to play that game. But yeah, Jason, you're absolutely right. Oklahoma is not a mid-level team. They are not. I think that everyone's overlooking that. They're thinking that Oklahoma is Baylor or Oklahoma is Oklahoma State. Oklahoma has a rich history of playing teams. You look at the Nebraska games that they played back in the day, in the Big Eight. Then you come to the Big 12 and you got Texas. You're playing Texas year round. So I think everybody is overlooking the overall aspect of how good Oklahoma is and how they can be going into the SEC. So we got the 5 wins out to Auburn. Then we have Texas. Now, this is the one thing about Texas that I don't understand, and I think everybody is just overlooking because, like I said in the beginning of the show, they need for Texas to be back. They need for Texas to be relevant. That is a marketing scheme that they need. They need for Texas to really be back. I've heard we're back multiple times, and I don't know that people can look at it and say this is the Texas from last year because they're not. They lost 11 players from last year. And I don't care who you are, when you lose that type of talent on both sides of the ball, you're going to fall off a little bit. And I have yet to see Quinn Ewer play a whole season without getting hurt. So there again, I don't know if Arch Manning will be ready in case something happens to Quinn Ewer. I don't know. There again, everything is subjective, but you still have to go in there thinking that if Texas isn't what Texas, if Texas isn't what everybody think that they are this year, how long before they start to ask, is Stark the right guy? Because we're comparing these things. Everybody forgets Sark has yet to win a bowl game as well. I keep hearing that, well, Brent Venables hasn't won a bowl game. Nor has Sark. He has yet to win a bowl game. Your first year you come in, you go 5-7. You don't even make the bowl game. Brent Venables' first year, he came in with a depleted team because Tebow took everything in the kitchen cupboard out to USC. He came in, they went 6-6. Should have beat Florida State. Should have beat Florida State. But you had two freshman running backs that have had over 100 yards rushing against that defense that was supposed to be the best in the ACC. They lost because I believe it was a last second fumble, and they got the ball and they went down there and they scored. But Oklahoma was going tick for tat, a 6-5, a 6-16 going up against the ACC championship. I think that is a daunting task for Oklahoma to do that. So I don't know if everyone's saying, well, the reason why we're not giving OU love is because the offensive line was depleted last year. I think a lot of people say that, but one thing I never worry about, Bill Bingbo. Coach B, I don't worry about him. He's put so many guys in the NFL. I think everyone is overlooking that. But there again, everyone is still looking at Lincoln Riley. He went to four CFBs, all right, four playoff games in a row. So they're looking at that. And they're looking at, I don't think Brent Venables can do that. There again, Brent Venables is building for the future and for the long haul. He's not building for right now. And I think Lincoln just I think he boshed up his resume to get to where he's at right now because I don't think he was planning on staying in Oklahoma for a long period of time. I don't think he was planning on staying that long anyway. But anyway, back on that. So I think we play Texas. I think we beat Texas because if Texas had their best year last year before 2009 when they went 13-1, then 2018 they went 10-4 when they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Then last year they go to the CFP and lose to Washington. You lose 11 guys, mainly two on the defense. You also lose your defensive line coach, who's the heart and soul of your team. I just don't think that you have enough to beat Oklahoma, who knows the blueprint on how to beat Texas. I think that the bulletin board material that Stark put up in the postseason, that he's going to try to score 70 on Oklahoma, I think those guys have that up in their locker rooms, and they're going to come out and they're going to try to hurt Ewer, or they're going to try to hurt. Well, I don't want to say hurt because I don't want nobody to get hurt. I just want a good physical game. I don't think that everybody is looking at how what Texas lost last year. You know, but yeah, Jason, you said, Coach, everyone is making up every reason to believe that they just didn't move another, league, including the big boys. Yeah, yeah, I believe that. I really believe that. But see, there's the taunting point that I want to make is that when you lose so much, you lost two of your best D lines that you've had in a long time, and you lost them. Then you lose your top three receivers. Then you lose your top running back. You lose your number one tight end that you had from last year. I just don't see what you bring back that would give me the assumption that you're going to beat Oklahoma, who returns 9 starters on defense and return all their productivity on offense, besides Drake Stoop. But I think Dion Burke, I think Dion, I think he cancels out Drake. And I think you might get an improvement. As good as Drake was, I think Dion cancels him out and might be a little bit of upgrade. So let's just put it like this. That game I believe is going to be the SEC welcome to the big boy game, because that's when the SEC is going to see, okay, we got two thoroughbreds in this league that's going to have to be reckoned with every single week. So no one's thinking about one thing. They're saying Oklahoma and Texas, boy, they're going to be in for a rude awakening when they come play these teams in the SEC. What about these teams that are going to be have to play Oklahoma and Texas every single week? That's one less team like Maine, Sister Mary the Blind, William and Mary that you can't play no more. So it's not an automatic win no more. So if you're not playing William and Mary and you're not stacking your wins, and now you got to play Oklahoma and Texas in those spots, that's going to hurt your teams like Vanderbilt will. That's going to hurt your mid-level teams, the teams like Tennessee, Auburn, Missouri, Kentucky. Now, those 6-win seasons, you are not getting those 6 wins. Now you're having 6 losses. So I think a lot of people are overlooking, talking about Texas and Oklahoma are going to have to learn how to adjust. I think the SEC is going to have to learn how to adjust. That you have two more, I don't want to say Georgia's, because Georgia's right now is on a different level. But Oklahoma, I'm going to say this: it's Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma or Texas or Oklahoma. Then there's the rest. And I really believe what someone said one time is that when Oklahoma walks into the SEC, if they were on a bus, they're only going to go back 2 or 3 seats, and then someone has to get their butt up because Oklahoma and Texas sat there. So I think they have to adjust to us as well. Yes, Jason, I agree with that. The SEC has to adjust to Oklahoma, point blank. I think everyone is overlooking how good Oklahoma has been on offense. Now, they were good on offense before Lincoln came. So now, with all this talent, I mean, no one is talking about Nick Anderson, man. 6'3" or 6'4", 215 to 20-pound receiver. 37 catches last year, man, or 38 catches. And I think he had what, 760 yards and 10 touchdowns? Come on, man. And he's not on nobody's watch list. And we're not even talking about the most explosive player on the field. That's Deion Branch that came in from, you know, he came in from God, brain fart. Oh man, Deion Branch came in from, I want to say, I'll think of it here in a minute. He came in from somewhere, and he brings in over 800 yards receiving. So I don't think that people are taking into account that Oklahoma is going to bring a high power offense along with a physical defense in there as well. So we'll have to just wait and see. But I think they beat Texas. I think they beat Texas. Thank you, Jason. Yes, Deion Branch came from Purdue. He came from Purdue. I knew I would get it. I knew you would help me out on this and everything. But bringing him in from Purdue, man, and to see that they said that he has the best work, the best work ethic out of all the receivers that they have this year. So that means a lot, knowing that a guy that comes in from the portal has shown that I want to be here, I need to be here, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure we get to that next level. You got to commend guys that come in and have that kind of attitude. So then you play South Carolina. Now, this is what I think might be a sleeper game, because you beat Texas, you have your first road game win against Auburn. This might be a game that Oklahoma can't overlook. You can't overlook. You can't let Shane Beamer come back home and get a win in Norman. I think that you still have to keep your foot on their neck, but I think you have the right coach. Brent Venables doesn't look overlook anyone. He knows that the standard is the standard. This is how we're going to be. This is what we're going to do. So when you play South Carolina and you play Shane Beamer, I think that Brent knows South Carolina from the days of being at Clemson. He knows South Carolina. He knows the tradition of South Carolina. He knows the history of it. He knows that they are a sneaky, physical, well disciplined team. I just think they don't have the talent this year to give Oklahoma any problems. But still, standard is a standard. You come in there, you do what you're supposed to do. I think this game is close the first half, but then I think Oklahoma pulls away because I think Oklahoma has too much depth. And I think that they're going to start playing some of these guys. And also, too, when we in week 7 or week 8, you have these buys. I think that when you have the physical therapist and you have the things in line to keep you in shape, to keep you healthy, nutritionists and things like that. I think Oklahoma does a great job of keeping their guys in great shape with all the physical therapy and things they have, cryo chambers and things like that. So when you have guys that can get to week 8 and prayerfully there are no injuries, that's only going to make you better because now you are playing more people, more reps, and you're getting better. So when you get better and the competition gets better, that makes your team better. As they say, the standard is the standard. So uh, doing that game right there, I think that Oklahoma will come in there and set the precedent to hold South Carolina and standard. I think they're gonna come in there, run the ball, do a little play action, and get out of there with a nice sizable victory. Yeah, I think South Carolina can be dangerous, Jason. I think I don't know if they have enough offensive weapons to be a threat. Now, take it for granted, if you come in there and you overlook them, yeah, it could be a rough day. It could be a long day if you come in and overlook them. But I don't think that Oklahoma's gonna come in there and overlook South Carolina due to Shane Beamer being there. I mean, coming back home, you don't want him coming here to get a sneaky victory because that will be the talk of the town that you beat Tennessee and Auburn and Texas, but then you lose to South Carolina, a team that doesn't have the horses as your Texas and your Auburns and your Tennessee. So as long as they don't have a hangover, like you said, I don't see them getting beat by South Carolina. But the next game is the game that I think that Oklahoma might have a little trouble with because we all know Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, offensive mind, just like Lincoln Riley. He can call up plays. They went in the portal and they got a plethora of talent out of the portal. But I don't know if that talent is going to be enough. And we don't know that much about, you know, Ole Miss. We don't know if Ole Miss is going to be healthy, if things are going to happen. Because the same way that people say, oh, you got to play that physical schedule, so does all these other teams. All these other teams have daunting schedules as well. So we can't just sit there and say Oklahoma's going to have the only hard schedule. I don't see that. I mean, Oklahoma, yes, they have a schedule that is very hard and very daunting this year. But I just think that with the group of guys they got coming back on defense, it's going to be a little bit easier for them. So if you look at it from the media side, is that, well, this is where there's going to be a loss for Oklahoma because Lane Kiffin went into the portal and got all these guys. He has Jackson Dart back, he has all the receivers back, but I don't know what they have on the defensive side that could cause Oklahoma any type of problem on the offense. Now, if Oklahoma's offense is gelling and everybody is still healthy, that means that Bill Bingbo did his job and got a great line for the season. And Oklahoma is just going to go in there and try to run the ball, play action, and hit the guys that they need to hit. So let's see what Jason got. They are more dynamic than they were. Fastest dude in the country. Doesn't take much mistake to get. Yeah, yeah. 10.1 kid. Yeah, if you miss him, he's gone. But I think Jason, that's also and a receiver on the OU side. OU got some speedster too that can cause problems. We're not looking at what Oklahoma can do. We don't know what Oklahoma's going to bring with Seth Luttrell. Seth has what he did with the green wave and everything is one thing. Oklahoma is a different one. You went from a Volkswagen to now you got a Mercedes. So you have to go in there and do what you have to do to get this W. And I think that everyone is overlooking what Seth Trail is going to bring. And then you got Joe John Finley. He knew what Lincoln called. He knew Lincoln's play calling. He's going to bring his own in. He's been around Josh Heupel. He's been around Jeff Levy. So the playbook is going to be open. I think everyone is making a big concern about Jackson Arnold struggling against the defense. Like I said before, that's going to be his defense that he faces every day is just going to be the best defense he faces all season. Maybe Alabama, because Alabama's Alabama. We don't know what Alabama's going to be under a new coach. So uh, we don't know what to expect from them. But I think it's a close win or a close loss. So against Ole Miss, that's the one game that I really can't put my finger on because we don't know what to expect from Lane Kiffin. He's like Sark. He loves to do trick plays. Oklahoma might be, excited about stopping a 4th and 2 and excited about the punt. They might fake it. Oklahoma has to always be on their P's and Q's when they play teams like that because everyone's going to bring their best game against Oklahoma. That's another thing that everybody's overlooking is that Oklahoma brings the best out of everyone. So when you play them, don't think that Oklahoma is not prepared. You might catch them off guard once, but you won't catch them off guard twice. Like I said, I think the right coaches are in the right situations for Oklahoma. And I think that that is what's going to help Oklahoma during this transition into the SEC. So, uh, yeah, Mars, I agree with that. I've never seen Kiffin win big games. Not at I didn't see him winning at USC. I didn't see him win at Tennessee. I didn't see him win at where he's at right now. Uh, but you never know, man. These guys, they live to play Oklahoma. And like I think I told Jason a few weeks ago, no team wants to lose to Oklahoma because that's a Big 12 school. They came in here. We're supposed to be the big bad boys. No one wants to be that first team to lose to Oklahoma. So they're gonna come every single week to win that game. So I don't know, man. If we look at this and see what's going on in the landscape, everybody is thinking that Oklahoma is just going to be that that middle school team that's like your Baylor's, your Texas Tech, and things like that. Oklahoma has competitive depth. That's the one thing that everybody keeps talking about is that Oklahoma has more horses than anybody that they're going to play this year. And because Oklahoma goes in the portal and they get what they need. They don't just go in there and start picking guys just because they're 5-star or they're just that. They go in there and they get what they need. They are very selective on who they pick. So yeah, Jason, I'm too, man. But that's what everybody is basing Oklahoma on. I am so sick of the Big 12 talk where other Big 12 team has 14. They seem to overlook that. And like Paul Feinbaum said, when he got to Oklahoma, he never knew. And I think that's another thing about the SEC. No one knows the history and tradition at Oklahoma. It's like they have this border and these shutters on their eyes from Louisiana or Louis from Louisiana on to the West Coast is cut off from the world. So they don't know the history and tradition. He was amazed of all the trophies and all the Heisman Parks and all the Oklahoma is the winningest history, the winningest program, I believe, since what they say, Jason, World War II. They are the winningest program since then. So just don't see how you can just overlook them. And when has Oklahoma ever been down like your Florida's been down or your Florida State's been down? Uh, Texas has been down for like 10 years. Oklahoma has never really been down. The worst Oklahoma has had in the last 20 years is what? 8-5? 2 8-5 seasons? And then last year. Last year. Last year is the worst that Oklahoma has ever had. No, the year before last, when they went 6-7. That's the worst Oklahoma has ever been in the last 20 to 30 years. 20 years. Because the Blake years, we don't want to talk about that. That is crazy. Texas is 10 behind and come in elite. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I agree with that. The 90s were the only bad decade. Yeah, Jason. And that's why I said the Blake era, man, we can't talk about that because I think he got that job and didn't really know what he had. So it took for Bob to come in, and Bob came in and put it back on the right. He came in the same thing that Brent did. broke it down to the studs, started rebuilding, and then from 1999 all the way to when he left in 2016, Oklahoma has been a 8-5 or better team since he's been there. So I don't know, man. We're gonna have to wait and see how everybody takes to this new Oklahoma team under Brent Venables. So at this point in time, man, I really do. I'm gonna say 7-1. All right, 7-1, and then when you play Maine, that is more like a bye week. I think you can rest your starters against Maine. I think me, you, Jason, and Mars, and three blind men can go beat Maine and not even play till halftime. So I think you go into that game and then you're 8-1 going into the Missouri game. If you're 8-1 going into the Missouri game, I think Oklahoma would be in a great position because that would have meant your offensive line is gelling. Everyone is still healthy. The defense is holding up. You're letting more guys come in that are the freshmen, the transport portal guys come in. You let them get in and learn the defense against these teams like Temple, Houston, and Tulane and Maine, so you can rest the other guys. So if you're 8-1, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, before you go to the Missouri game. I think Oklahoma will be in the top five. I believe they'll be in the top five if they do that. Uh, all right, Marge, you said mom told me people hate Oklahoma because they used to win all the time, and my mom is 74. Hey, man, my mom, man, is 74 too, man, and she told me that she remember when people used to try to loosen the wagon wheels on the scooter and everything to keep them from running across the field. So I agree with you on that, man. Back in the days, man, they used to do all kind of things. Uh, the powerhouses like Nebraska and Oklahoma, and even back in those days, Colorado, man, they were deep. Back in those days, they would do all kind of things, man. Like I think a buddy of mine said that when they played Texas at Cotton Bowl, they flattened all the tires on the bus and they couldn't drive to the stadium, so they had to wait till a new bus come take the players to the stadium. So it's crazy. It's crazy back in the day. Jason, sweet 8-1, about to close 2-1. Whereas, man, look, if we get to 8-1, I don't think people really believe in Missouri. I think they're just going by what they did last year, but their schedule was trash last year. But it's a SEC team, so they're not going to talk bad about a SEC team that had a terrible schedule. But Missouri had a terrible schedule, and it took a last-second field goal to beat Kansas State. Now, I can't talk bad about Kansas State. Kansas State has had OU's number a year or two and everything, so I really can't say anything bad about that. But you have arguably one or two good receivers. Theo is still there. Theo Weiss is still there, and then you have another receiver there that I think Burke is still there. So if you have those two receivers, but you're bringing back Gentry Williams, you're bringing back Billy Bowman, you're bringing back a lot of these guys that know these guys that have played against these guys in practice. So I don't think Theo is going to be a problem. I think that the number one guy that I'm glad is gone is the running back for Missouri from last year. Now I'll give him credit. He was a dog last year, and I believe, man, that he's going to be him being gone is going to help Oklahoma out. And I think that's a good thing because I think with Dominic Williams and everything, and you got all this talent on the defensive line, Jason Terry, who knows the SEC. I think that Oklahoma's gonna have a good chance, man, to really just make a statement against Missouri because Missouri's been that they're trying to make Missouri the new Oklahoma State to where Oklahoma and Missouri is gonna be a rivalry. A rivalry is when you're like 65 and 61, with a 5 game. When you're like 95 and the other team like 24, that's not a rivalry. It really isn't a rivalry. So Jason says, Mars, you see all that smack Theo's dad been talking. Yeah, I saw that. Now I don't know why you set your son up to do that. I mean, now I don't like parents getting on social media, man, and advocating for their son. Now, if you want to get on there and advocate for your son and say, "Hey, my son has worked hard. He's looking forward to this game," that's different. But when you get on there, man, and do bulletin board material, these guys take it personal, and I'm saying you're setting your son up to get hurt in that game, man, because we've all seen cheap shots. We've seen TCU take cheap shots at Baker and knock him out of the ball game. I don't think Brent's going to allow that to happen, but kids, man, are very funny these days, man. And when you try to embarrass them on Twitter and social media and all this, they take it personal. And I think Theo's dad shouldn't have done that. I know he might have some bad, blood about how it went down in Oklahoma and things like that, but you're setting your son up for failure. You know, uh, that's all anyone at Mizzou has done all year is talk. Well, their coach is a doofus. I don't think he know. I mean, they were talking about firing this guy last year, and he had one good season, and to save his job, now he wants to go on there and talk crazy. Yes, you beat Oklahoma out for a few players, but it's play. OU is going for the best players. They're going for the best players, and if we don't get it, we don't get it. But I believe Oklahoma is going to be in for some great news here next week. I believe they're going to get a I can't say anything. I think they're going to get a 5-star offensive lineman here next week, and then I think they're going to get another one here in a few more weeks. So it just be careful what you say on social media, man. It's because some guys take it personal, and some guys don't have the mindset and everything, man, to keep it just on the field. They take it personal as a challenge to me. Jason says Theo got himself in Lev's doghouse. He didn't get on the field with the lightest. Yep, yep. Well, I mean, also too, man, just because you're a 5-star, you still got to bring it. A lot of these guys are 5-star and they feel like they are entitled to just start. You still got to come in there and compete. Iron sharpens iron, and I think a lot of guys come in here thinking that they're just going to just get a starting role because they're a 5-star. No, I never heard about his dad. Yeah, his dad was on Twitter running his mouth and everything about how Lincoln did this. Lincoln, and like I said, I don't even like talking about Lincoln anyway because he clueless too and everything. So, um, like I said, you know, oh yeah, they're all going to try. I mean, but you know what? Out of all the coaches in the SEC, Brent Venables and Kirby Smart, those are the two coaches, man. I would not want to talk smack to because those guys, man, they are still in shape. They are fiery defensive coordinators, and they are crazy, and they love to be physical. And I think that's why Kirby is so good. Is because Kirby said in he had a sports clinic, and they asked him about Oklahoma and Texas, and he really gave Oklahoma love. I was shocked because he said out of everyone in the SEC, people don't know how attentive to detail Brent Venable is. If he said, and this is coming from Kirby, if he says 3 feet, you better be at 3 feet. If you're at 2.5, he's in your ass. And Kirby, and they asked Kirby, well, is that a big deal? And Kirby said, yes, it's a big deal because if I want you at 3 feet, that means be at 3 feet. That don't mean be where you want to be. Attention to detail is what I want you to be. So that's coming from Kirby. And Kirby thinks that everyone is overlooking Oklahoma. And that guy has won a lot in the SEC for the last few years and everything. So coming from him, that means a lot as an OU fan because it used to be that the standard was Nick Saban. And yes, Jason, 3 inches will get you beat. 3 inches. Hey, prime example, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State playing Baylor. I'm pretty sure that Oklahoma State would have loved to have them 3 inches to get in the end zone. And 3 inches to 3 inches. And I'm being honest, that's what he means is that when you are playing zone, or when you are playing a line and a read something, And if you're not in that spot, you can't that you only reach so far. So if I can't grab you, I can't tackle you. If I would have been 3 inches more over to the left and I get my hands on you, I have a better chance of tackling you. So that's what he meant is that, and I've seen these videos of Brent Venables getting on his players about not being in the right alignment and not in the right spot. That's very, and when you are a coach that's has an attention to detail, that's very important. It's very important. Morris says he wanted to go play for an offense minded soft coach. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that if Lincoln would have wanted him to come to USC, I think he would have went to USC to be with Lincoln. Those DBs going to wear. Oh yeah, Gentry Williams, and they're going to wear him out. They're going to wear him out. But I know one thing: he won't go across the middle. I tell you that right now, because Billy gonna lay him out, and I think Billy Bowman is highly overlooked, but I think that he's gonna prove that this year. But let's get back to this. I got off. I'm so sorry. I got off on that, man. Jason and Morris got me reminiscing about this defense that's going to be there, man, and what Kirby Smart said about Brent Venables. So, uh, like he said, if Brent told you to be here and told you to be there, that's good. But coming from Kirby, when Lincoln had a 31-17 lead at halftime, Kirby went in there and changed the whole game plan and came back out. And that defense held Baker in check. But I think that was Lincoln's fault. Lincoln Lincoln, he gets a lead, man, and he just wanted to hold on. My thing is, I'm like Steve Spurrier. Your job is to stop me from scoring. I'm not gonna stop scoring. If I score 60 or 70, hey, I'm sorry, but you got to stop me. I'm not going to take my foot off the brake and let you back in the ball game. So anyway, let's get back to this. So you are 8-1 against Maine, and then you play Missouri. I think you beat Missouri because Missouri doesn't have the stable of running backs they had last year. I don't think they have the offensive line that they had last year. I think that this year Oklahoma goes in there and tries to make a statement against Missouri because Missouri is talking all this noise, and I think that's the one thing that you don't want to do to a mature physical defense is talk smack. So I got Oklahoma 9-1 against Missouri. If Oklahoma gets to 9-1 against Missouri, they have a bye week before they play Alabama. I think Oklahoma this might be their most taunting game for the season because no one knows what Alabama's going to be. No one knows. So with the new coach coming in from Alabama, we know Alabama's offense is going to be good on the mill road and everything. If he comes in there and we can't get a read on him, we don't have a spy on him, we don't have a chance. But I think if you put a spy on him and then you play a good base defense that keeps everything contained in the middle, I think that you have a good chance of beating Alabama. Uh, but yes, Jason, we'll know by then. We'll know how good Oklahoma is by week week 10. We'll know. We'll know how good they are because if they're 9-1 walk going into the Alabama game, that means that the offensive line has jailed. And I do remember hearing Brent say that they are expecting to go 11 deep on defensive line. When was the last time an OU defense went 11 deep on defensive line? I don't think they ever done that. I know on the Alex Grinch they never done that. They ran the same guys over and over and over again. The defense was so tired. That's why when it came down to crunch time, they couldn't stop nobody. They couldn't stop nobody because they were tired. When you have those, I mean, man, I would have loved to have seen the guys that Lincoln and Alex Grinch had. Perryon Winfrey, I would have loved to see him with Brent Venables. That's the one they always say, what defensive player would you have wanted to be with this group right here? I think that if he would have had Perryon Winfrey, man, as nose tackle, I think Perrion would win the first round. He was that physical, that gifted. I just think that Grinch didn't know how to use his talent. And he was also scared too. He was scared of the guys rebelling on him and because he couldn't call shit. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. Um yep. Yep, Jason. You're right. Yep. But like I said, Oklahoma never got defensive linemen like they are right now. Perrion was a dog being coached by yeah. I mean, when he came that next year when he came back for the spring game, he told Brent, he said, if I would have known that you was coming gonna be our coach, I would have came back. So that man, I would have loved to seen that. I think that guy right there, man. And I think a lot of guys decided to leave because they got tired of Lincoln and they thought that Alex Grinch was gonna still be there. So a lot of those guys left early instead of coming back. I wish they would have came back, man, and I think it would have been a little bit more special having BV there. But I think the right guys stayed, and I think the right guys are still there now. That's why Oklahoma is going to be so productive on defense. Having Stutzman back is very vital and very important. He is another Brent Venables. He knows where everybody needs to line up. He knows where everybody needs to be. So I think that's why they're going to be a little bit more productive on defense. Yes, the right one stayed. Yeah, the right one stayed. And like I said, that's very important. But I think that if they didn't have BV there, they would have left. I think BV and the guys that stayed, Woody could have went pro. Stetson could have went pro, definitely. Billy Bowman could have went pro. But all those guys came back, man, because they even said it. We want to set a precedent of what it's like to play in Oklahoma in year one in the SEC. They want to they want to come and help make us. They want to come help Oklahoma go into the SEC and make a statement. That's it. So, yes, they want to leave it. They want to leave a legacy. And that's the one thing, man. That's why when they have these spring games and all these alumni come back and they love BV, all these guys love BV, man. And when you see that, that makes you play better. That makes you play harder. So to have a coach, man, that's going to turn you around and make you see what you can be versus what you were under a different regime. I mean, that means something because Lincoln had no clue about how to stop a defense. At least Bob coached defense before, so he knew what to look for, and he knew what to call, and he knew how to help out the D backs. When you have an offensive mind coach that has no idea about defense, I think if Lincoln would have been smart the days that I'm trying to get his name now, Landing. I think if he would have been smart, the days when he was at Texas Tech under Mike Leach, not only would I have been under Mike Leach in the offensive room, I would have been with the defensive coordinator, at least trying to get an understanding of defense. You would think an offensive mind coach would know how to read a defense. Lincoln has no clue on defense. He has no clue. So let me get off that little loser, man, because I don't care for him anyway. So you go into Alabama 9-1. I think that that's a game that OU fans are going to go crazy for because Oklahoma has played Alabama decent. I think they got them when they played Alabama. Say they overlooked them. It is what it is. But when you get beat, and that was the year that Trevor Knight came out and threw for 300 something yards and was on. I don't know what he was on that night. They beat the brakes off you know Alabama, and that was a shocker. I think that's when Stryker had like 8 sacks in one game. That was a game that most OU fans say was turning point that made us think that we can play in the SEC is beating Alabama that time. But then Alabama comes back and beat us when we have Kyler Murray. So we are used to Alabama, but I think Alabama might win that game. I think they might win that game, but we don't know what Alabama's going to be like. We don't know if Milroe is going to be the quarterback that can get it done under this new offensive coach versus how he used to do under Nick Saban. So we'll see. But I think Oklahoma will lose that game, and then I think they'll be 9-2 and everything. So going into the last game of the season against LSU, and you're 9-2, I think Oklahoma, with that schedule they had, beating four of the top 10 teams that you've played, because I think Tennessee will be ranked in the top, at least top 15. I think Texas is going to be in the top 10 because I think they're going to have a loss against either Michigan, or they're going to have a loss against, they don't play Georgia yet, but they're going to have a loss against Oklahoma, but they're only going to have one loss maybe. They'll still be in the top 10. And then, of course, losing to a top 5 team in Ole Miss, beating a top 10 team in Missouri, and then losing to a top 10, maybe top 15 team Alabama, or top 5 team Alabama. So you're 9-2. So Jason says, Coach, those mid-level programs create mid-level coaches like Oakley, like better at excuses than execution, and don't know how to coach elite talent. I agree with that. I agree with that. Some coaches that who don't have, who've never had elite talent, don't know how to coach it. And that's one thing, man, I used to love about, and they also always say about Pat Riley, he had all the talent in the world. You still got to coach it. You still got to coach it. You got to mix the stars and the talent with other people, because you can't just have all players be stars. You got to mix the stars with the players that are up and coming to get them up to where the stars are. So that is a good coach. A good coach is a coach that comes in and evaluates the low level and get them up to what a high level is. So we're going into the LSU game 9-2. I think that Oklahoma wins this game. And the only reason why I say that, I don't think that Brian Kelly's defense is going to be as good as everybody thinks it's going to be. We all think of LSU and we think of DBU. They do create some great defensive backs. They do create some great receivers. I commend that. But you lost the Heisman Trophy candidate, and you're bringing in a guy who's never ran a high-powered offense like you're going to run. And I think Brian Kelly, is his statement that he don't pay players rubs me the wrong way, because some players are like, well, you paid me. And then some players like, well, you didn't pay me. I don't know if that's going to start a little controversy in the locker room, because guys are going to be like, well, I got paid. I didn't get paid. Statements like that should never be made by a coach out in public. That should be made behind closed doors. You never put things out in the media so they can make their own little, assumption. You keep that behind closed doors. So Oklahoma goes in there, and I think it's gonna be a night game at Tiger Stadium. Yeah, Jason. Yeah, LSU women girl, they got paid. I know one of them came out and said that she got paid real good. And then you also got to look at the LSU softball squad. One of the OU players, I got brain fart. She went there, and rumor has it she's making way over 6 figures, the deep 6 figures. Like in the 600,000 and 700,000s to come play softball there. So if you're playing players like that, if you're playing softball players that kind of money, and you playing the LSU basketball girls that kind of money, you already know what the football program is going to be. And for Brian Kelly to say he don't pay players, that's bullshit. You're paying players. It's okay to admit it now. The NCAA is not gonna get you. They're paying players. Period. So all that other stuff, I don't want to hear it. Another excuse maker at Notre Dame. We can't show in the same. Yep, I do remember him saying that he's at Notre Dame, is that we can't get the kind of players that we want because other programs are paying players and all that. Excuse after excuse, man. I mean, when that guy was at Cincinnati, he was a good coach. I think when you are a group of five coach, the hustle and the grind to get to the Power Five is daunting. But then when you get there, everything that the way that you were humble and you worked and you did everything that you're supposed to do to get to the Power Five, keep that same energy. Don't change. Because Brian Kelly has definitely changed. He's not the same coach he was when he was at Cincinnati. He has fallen off the wagon, and I think the money's gotten to him or whatever it is, but he is not the same coach he used to be. He is not. So you beat LSU. So then Oklahoma goes in 10-2. Now, I'm gonna be an advocate and I'm gonna tell you the truth. Is Oklahoma is 10-2 going into SEC championship. I think that they will be in the mix to play either Georgia or a remix of Ole Miss. You know, so yeah, Jason, I agree with that. Yes, by saying that, you're making Dominic and everything look greedy, and I don't think it was ever about money when it was about Dominic and everything. I think it was the relationship with Brent Venables and everything. I think that's what made him, because when you're that talented, and we all know, if you're the number one recruit in the portal and you go to a team, you're going to get paid, no doubt. You're going to get paid. Now, it all depends on what do you want, because there's some players, I can say it. Nephew went somewhere and it wasn't about money. He told me it was not about money. It was about something else. So it was about stability, and his girlfriend was, so I get that. So you're going to make money and you're going to be getting an education and you're going to get paid. So why are you crying about X, Y, and Z? Uh, Coop interviewed his mom. It wasn't a money thing. No, I agree. I agree. When you have that type of relationship, and not only Dominic and everything, other players, I think Powers from I think it's Michigan State. He said the reason why he came to Oklahoma was because oh God, brain fart. Oh, he had a great relationship with the D-back coach from OU. And he said he just made him feel like you can come to OU or you can go somewhere else. And if you want to go somewhere else, I will vouch for you and I will tell them what kind of person that you are. That means a lot to a parent when my child goes there and my child has doubt, and you're like, well, hey, wherever you want to go, I will vouch for you. I will say, hey, you are you are great here. I commend you, and I will do whatever I can to help you go there. That means a lot to me, because that means that you cared about me as a player, not about what I can give you or bring to your team. So when guys like that and coaches at OU that do that to these players, that means a lot. And a lot of these players, man, they love the coaches. That's why they came back to play an extra year. So I think that a lot of I think the media is getting the wrong interpretation of Oklahoma. I think that they're going by what people saw last year. They're not going by tradition. They're not going by history. They're not going by that, hey, this is Oklahoma. We don't run from talent. I mean, excuse me, we don't run from opponents. We don't run from, oh, okay, you in the SEC. Bob Stoops made it very clear. The SEC has always been top heavy. That's it. Your LSU's sometimes, your Georgias here recently, your Alabamas. Boganowski, Pop said Kansas State coaches told them Oklahoma wouldn't play him and it pissed them off. Well, I thought Boganowski was going to go to K State because, excuse me, there was a personal relationship with K State, but I believe I saw the interview and Boganowski's father said that was his son's call, and that's what you want to do. You want to coach your son and build them up mature wise, and then you let them make their decision, and whatever decision they make, hold them accountable. He said he took it as them saying he wasn't good enough. Yeah, you got to be very careful, man, how you word things and say things to parents, because parents are not kids. They're not gullible. They know what you mean and they know how you meant it. So by Kansas State saying that, it was saying that, well, he's not going to play you, so that meant my son wasn't good. I would took it the same way. I would took it the same way as, oh, so you want my son, but you're saying he's not good enough to go to Oklahoma. I believe that's how Mike's dad took it as, oh, you want him, but he's not good enough to go to Oklahoma. That's kind of bad, man. You got to watch what you say, man, how you say things, man. So because that does come off bad for a parent. Yeah, I believe his dad also just retired from the military, man. Thank you for your service, man. I really appreciate that. I try to give all my flowers to all veterans. I'm a veteran myself, so I try to give all flowers when I hear that a veteran has retired, man, because that's a great accomplishment, man, to be that way. But I want to shine on that, man, because that was a key point in everything, man. That his pop said that Coach Kansas State told them OU wouldn't play him, and it pissed him off. Yeah, yeah, I'll be the same way if I'm a parent. What you're telling me is my son's not good. That's how I would have took it. So, hey, thank you, Jason, man. Well, hey, man, I've been on here, man, about an hour, man. I promised my wife and everything, man, I wouldn't be on that long today because I've been looking forward to doing this. I want to try to get on a little bit more often. I've been away for a while doing a lot of AAU tournaments, refereeing a lot, man. So my time is being, pulled this way and that way. But we're gonna try to get a set schedule going forward. I want to try to do it on Sundays, try to do it on Wednesdays, and try to do it on Thursday and Saturday. So, oh yeah, yeah, Jason, I got to do that, man. I got my grandbaby here. She's staying the weekend with us, so I want to definitely. But I promised, my listeners, man, that I would get on, talk about this, man. But I think that if Oklahoma goes 10-2, we will definitely be in the first ever college football playoff 12 team roster. Now, that will be another podcast because I want to jump on that because I think a lot of teams are being thrown into that 12-man team, and we don't know what it's going to consist of. It's going to consist of more SEC teams, more Big Ten teams. We know the Pac-12 is out of it. We're not even worried about the two teams left over there. What is the Big 12 going to bring in? What is the ACC going to bring in? But I think, man, we're 17 days away. I think everybody, man, is no, we are exactly 13 days away. 13 days away from OU playing their first game on a Friday night. So I think everybody has this misconception that, oh, it's going to be so many. It has to be a team from the SEC. It has to be the team from the ACC. I think that it should be the best 12 teams. And I don't want to hear about Liberty getting a spot. It's not about the most deserving. It's the best 12 teams. So I don't, and kind of I'm kind of iffy on that because I think the group of five should form their own conference and should form their own championship thing, man. Because it's only killing. Last year Oregon played Liberty and beat the brakes off of them. Man, they really shouldn't have been in that game. Okay, Jason says no auto bids. Good, good. That's gonna help out, man, because you don't want teams in there, man, that don't deserve to be in there. Everybody's still mad and upset about Florida State not getting in. I think it was a terrible call, but it was the right call. You can't have your third string quarterback in there going to a national championship game and your guys opting out. Some decide they don't want to play, they do want to play, and we saw what happened. And you can't get mad at Georgia for beating the brakes off them because the players opted out. It just means that Georgia wanted to make the statement more. That's it. That's all it is too, man, is that you can't go in there saying, well, they are a group of five champion, they deserve to be in there. No. I want the best 12 in there. That's it. Yes, Jason. Best 12 is best 12. That's it. And I believe that if Oklahoma goes 10-2, I believe Oklahoma will be in the SEC championship game. That'll be a good game between them and Georgia or them and Ole Miss or whoever it may be on that side. We're all thinking that it's going to be Georgia. So to see Oklahoma play Georgia, the part two version of the Rose Bowl, I think that'd be a good game. And I think that with Oklahoma doing so well in year one in the SEC, that people are going to start thinking, okay, this Oklahoma team, they're for real. So now you're going to start seeing the portal guys that didn't want to go to Oklahoma now. Those players that decide to go to Missouri, they won't go to Missouri. They'll go to Oklahoma. Those guys that didn't go to Ole Miss, they'll go to Oklahoma because you can't keep. I think Ole Miss paid the most money in the portal. How how often and how many times is the boosters going to cut off that much money to bring in the number one recruiting class in the portal, and then they don't have anything to show for it. So, oh, we're gonna have fun with Coach and Shorty this week. Oh yeah, that's yeah. I'm gonna have to get on with you guys one day, man. Like I said, that's gonna be a dream of mine, man, to get on with you guys, man. Chop it up. Funny how some things work itself out. I always thought BB should have been the next. Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, I think if if BV would have became the coach when Bob Stoops left, I really believe OU would have had at least one or two championships by now because he would have had Baker for 3 years, 2 years. Oh yeah, oh yeah. He would have Baker for 2 years, and with that defense and Perry on and all them guys, oh yeah, he would have won it because I don't think that they would have scored that many points. I don't think that Alex Grinch knew how to stop. Uh, well, no, was Alex? No, there wasn't. No, Alex wasn't there. Alex came the next year. Ruffin didn't know how to stop Georgia. Beebe needed to go to Clemson to become a more. Yeah, I think that they say that. Well, I told you, family members there. He knows Brent personally, and I think he became more spiritual when he went to Clemson. I think sometime, man, you need to go get cleansing, and you need to go get a better perspective of life and a better perspective on how to be a better coach, and then come back and then take on because that old saying, if you're giving something before you're prepared to get it, you're not going to treat it the same way you're supposed to. And I really believe that. I believe if BV would have gotten that before he went to Clemson, I don't think he would be the BV that he is right now. So yes, I agree with that. Yeah, Ruffin was the mid-level coach. Love that. I think Ruffin man was just old, man. I think he was just old. I think he was on his way out, and I think that he just came back to help out Lincoln. I think Lincoln paid him a return favor for Ruffin bringing him to East Carolina. So I think they just did a even swap. You help me out to get to East Carolina. I'm gonna help you out. Come help me coach this defense until I find somebody else. So that's how that worked out. He didn't know how to coach elite players. No, because to be honest, Texas Tech and East Carolina and everywhere Ruffin has been, he hasn't had that kind of talent like Oklahoma has. So you're coming in with talent that you've never had. So yes, I agree with that. And but if we when we look back on it, uh, Mars said he was on that go-go juice. Well, I don't know about that, man. I don't know if he was on the go-go juice or not and everything, man. But if that's some information that you know that I don't know, man, hey, keep it to yourself because I had no idea about that, man. So, but hey, guys, man, it was great coming on here, man, talking with you guys, man, chopping it up and everything, man. I'm gonna try to get back on here tomorrow. I think me and Mike, uh, mother of two beauties. That's my granddaughter. Hi, Paw from Alani. You're doing great, Paw. I appreciate it, sweetheart. Thank you so much. I'll see you here in a few minutes. We can watch cartoons together. But hey, guys, thank you for chopping in, man. I think tomorrow night at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern, me and Mike is gonna jump on again. We're gonna do a live show, man, and we're gonna chop it up some more. Yeah, Jason, man. Like I said, my grandbaby's here, man. I gotta go spend time with him. But hey, thank you guys for jumping in, man. I appreciate it, man. Until next time, man. Coach Rick's out. check me out next time. But all right, bye.